This, this is a program to help educate you on some of the issues that are vital to your understanding and way of life, and what can be done to improve it. Only when we get other views can we make intelligent choices regarding the decisions and options available to us for the enrichment and improvement of our lives. Good evening, Truman Sigler for Personalities in the News, live from smoky Fresno, California. This show is dedicated to the memory of John Castle, who started Personalities in the News in 1964, and it ran through 2003. The format of this program is educational in nature and based on the constitutions of the United States of America and the California Republic. Welcome. You came here because you didn't like it there, and now you want to change here to be like there. We are not racist, phobic, or anti-whatever you are. We simply like it the way it is. And most of us actually came here because it's not like there, wherever there was. You are welcome here, but please stop trying to make here like there. If you want here to be like there, you should not have left there to come here. And you are invited to leave here and go back there at your earliest convenience. The program today is on talking points on current events in the news of the last few months, with some additions and updates about where we are today and how we got here. As these are current events and still in progress, and the full story is still not out and may take some time to research the actual facts, our talking points will be on the Constitution of this republic as set forth by the founders. Are we a republic or a democracy? If we have time, we'll talk on money of account, the so-called pandemic, peaceful assembly and petition for redress of grievances versus protests, looting, burning, and rioting, and also your questions and comments. This show will be moderated by our co-hosts, Sue Ann Caesar, Steve Hempling, Director of the Free Enterprise Society, and myself. And also, we have a very special guest for you this evening, Gary Bredefield, representing District 6 of the City of Fresno. Now, there are alleged claims of police misconduct and other issues. We are advocating of using the constructive notice to inform them of their legal obligations to their oath of office. The events that have been happening in this last few weeks and possibly months are of grave importance to all of us. We must use the constructive notice process now if this great country is to survive. The law enforcement police arresting people for exercising their rights. The hijacking of protesting people by criminal factions that looted, burned, and attacked innocent people's businesses after the so-called marches was and is a war against the foundation and principles of this country and must be dealt with as an invasion. It is being condoned by the same political parties by inflicting unconstitutional orders and mandates of governors, mayors, and others, which destroys the trust and respect of the people and fear of any interaction with the officials or police. The so-called pandemic coronavirus and the unlawful reaction of the servants in government and to the edicts and reactionary controls they placed on the people. We, the people, have the power and the means to effect a change and force you servants, which we elected to manage this republic, and you took an oath to do so. We are not asking, we are demanding that you servants honor your oath and follow the constitutions. We, the people, only have the rights that we are willing to stand up for. Otherwise, we are only slaves. There is not any provisions, to my knowledge, in the constitutions for protests, rioting, destruction, burning of property. The only thing that is there is a peaceful assembly for redress notice of grievances. I want to read this link. I think it's very important. Gavin Recall 2020.com. That's Gavin Recall 2020.com. To call in your questions For our guest, you call 559-899-1550. That's Talk Radio KXEX 1550 with your questions and comments. Steve, would you, I will introduce Gary Bredefeld now, and then you can start off with the questions. My voice is getting a little bit raspy. That's what happens when you get COPD. So, Gary, welcome to Personalities in the News.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited about you coming on because I've been watching. You've been in the news a few times, and I understand you're the only one I actually see out there working toward helping the Virgins and the people of this community. Because I don't really feel the governor and even the mayor is doing things to protect us. They may think they are, but to me, they've been doing it to us. And I'm really upset over the shutdown and the financial ruin it has brought to many people. But you're one of the few standing up for people. And so I want to maybe open that up and tell me a little bit about what you've been doing there in Fresno.
Well, I share concerns you expressed. I mean, we've had this pandemic. It started in April, and what was supposed to be a 14, 15-day lockdown to flatten the curve has now become a 7-month nightmare for many people. And you're absolutely right. All of us are public servants, and we all swear an oath to the Constitution to oppose any enemies of the Constitution, foreign or domestic. Well, these policies that have come to Sacramento are unconstitutional. There's no question about it. You can arbitrarily shut down churches and businesses because of capricious whim on your part, which is what Newsom has done. And, there's a lot of blame to go around. He's the only one. We have elected representatives statewide, local elected officials, all that have basically taken these edicts and these unconstitutional orders and just put them out there on social media. And there's been no pushback, frankly, except myself for the most part. And people's lives and livelihoods and businesses have been destroyed. Some of them are not even going to open up again. We now have school lockdowns where kids are being hurt. There's kids struggling with depression and anxiety and social isolation. There's older kids in schools. The suicide rate and have increased. It's been well documented. And yet lockdowns continue. And what we have locally is a public health official who's the spokesperson who gets his orders from Newsom, whatever it is. And the goalposts change all the time. We started with a roadmap, then went to a dimmer switch, and we went to a 4-color, 4-tier system. And these guys were supposed to be professionals and physicians. Just put that out there. So that doesn't make any sense. And our kids are being hurt. And so it just was very important to speak out. I'm going to continue to speak out. Kids still not in school. They're not learning with the virtual learning as they would if they were in classrooms. And so it's absolutely a disgrace. And so that's why I've spoken out on it and have since May.
Well, I'm glad you did that. And I saw you there with the that restaurant, Waffle House, and some other things. Newsom just came out with I don't know if it's an order, but a tweet that says you got to put your mask on between bites now. I mean, the guy is he's insane.
I mean, like, anybody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. And it's just more stupidity from a man who has demonstrated to be completely incompetent in terms of handling this. I mean, he clearly has a political agenda. At the outset that this way to promote his progressive policies, and he has. He's released 20,000 mates, and our crime rates are skyrocketing. He's left homeless on the highways and refuses to allow them to be removed, so they've burrowed into the actual side of the highways. There's health and safety hazards, of course. We look like a third world country, and this is what happens with these progressive policies.
Well, I heard on the news that Fresno County pretty much is not going to enforce this. Is that something you're knowledgeable on, or that was the County Board of Supervisors? Or?
Yeah, no, he has mandated that it cannot be removed. So those are state properties. The highways are state property. The embankments are state property. So it really is the California Highway Patrol that they've been told to send down. So they can't be removed. And that's a big time problem, and it's just worsening as you see. And The problem is, it used to be before we had Prop 47, 57, and AB 109, if you had a drug problem, you were mandated to get drug treatment or you went to jail. And now there is no consequence. There's no consequence for crime. There's no consequence for living on highways. There's no consequence for taking drugs. There's no consequences for robbing stores. There's no consequences. We also have zero bail policy. So it's a revolving door at the jail. And it is a very dangerous time for our city.
Well, I would think most people would agree with you. I mean, if you see a hurt dog, there's somebody to call. There's somebody who will come out and help them, but not people anymore. And it's ridiculous and criminal. I think it's criminal. I think some of these people, Newsom, once we get the recall done, he probably should be brought up on charges. I mean, he has destroyed people's lives and completely lost. A lot of people lost everything. And I assume that Waffle House didn't make it at this point.
He didn't come in there through a coup. He was elected by people. And so people elect these folks with these kinds of policies. And this is what you get. As I say, actually have consequences, and will certainly do. And that's the same thing, obviously, with the presidential election. There's a stark contrast between Donald Trump's history of law and order and trade wars, where we finally hold China accountable, where we bring manufacturing jobs back to the country, where you're pro-life as opposed to wanting and being okay with unborn babies being killed right up through the 9th month. There's a clear difference between him and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And let's hope that Donald Trump wins, because what we've seen across the country with riots and looting and cities that haven't held people accountable, I fear we'll see across the country even more.
Well, anyway, I'm glad you're on there. You're the only one on the city council, kind of. I mean, I get the impression you are a Christian and that you've read the Constitution. So.
Well,
seems like a lot of people
there's been
not.
a lot of support from my position. I've worked hard to try to get these policies changed in the city where businesses can open. When I put them on the agenda, they pull them off with the supermajority. So it's been very, very difficult. We have a mayor, though a Republican, has fully supported all of these policies. The lock-ins with the businesses. A very nice man, but the policies are atrocious and in lockstep with ones out of Sacramento for Newsom. So therein lies the problem, and therein lies why we have so many in our area who are hurting. Their businesses have been hurt. Livelihoods have been hurt. They've been hurt. And our kids are being hurt in real time every week by these continued lockdowns.
I'd like to interject a question here. I understand that you had a meeting with some of the business owners downtown, down at City Hall, and I was not able to be there. And how did that come out? What was the results?
Well, we've had many meetings with businesses. We had the rally, which was to open up all businesses by October 1st. I think most have. Now, we got switched from one to another that allowed them to open up. There's talk that maybe Tuesday Newsom is going to shut it down again. So we'll see what happens with that. And also, again, they shut churches. Now, my church has opened, and they've been fully. So there are other churches that are doing the same thing. And my feeling is we have to stand up to the federal government. It's authoritarian. They have no right constitutionally to shut down churches. You can keep the abortion clinics open. The abortion clinics have never been shut down, but churches are shut down. Our ability to assemble is shut down. Restaurants are shut down. Nail salons, gyms. It's all arbitrary, yet Home Depot, Lowe's is open. So it makes no sense. It's illogical. And the damage being done is going to be felt for you. I just posted on Facebook, the World Health Organization has just put out a report that these lockdowns not the way to deal with that they cause untold mental health, physical consequences to people, not even mentioning the school closures, and no job. I mean, that is obvious that this was not the way to go. after we came to understand that people who are elderly and people who have compromised immune systems and other medical conditions, those are the ones we have to focus on to make sure they don't get COVID. Healthy people, young people, they deal with it. They deal with it fine. Yet we shut down businesses and schools and kept healthy people up, under quarantine. They call it shelter in place, nice term, but basically locking people up in their homes.
Well, I can see you're a very rational person, and the mayor, I think he was, trying to be helpful, trying to be well-meaning, but it doesn't matter. If I'm trying to help somebody and I end up hurting them, I'm going to be held responsible, and probably either financially or in jail. And I think the same should go for these elected officials. They're not immune from being prosecuted. But you make a good point on the way they're doing this. There's Sweden. You may have heard of Sweden. They never did a lockdown, and they are faring better than the United States. I mean, for a while they were a little ahead of us in deaths, but now they're behind us, almost 100 behind us.
Yeah, Steve, I'd like to, when you're done, I'd like to break in here.
Yeah, sure.
Gary, are you familiar with what we call the direct and constructive notice and demand? This is something that we have put together at Free Enterprise Society, and I used it myself about 20 years ago and went against not the state agency, but the people that were working for them in their individual capacity. And this direct and constructive notice is based on the RICO statutes, racketeering. And we had a win of sorts on this particular issue. It was taken by a group over in the Santa Cruz area with our help. We guided them on it and so forth and so on. And they went and noticed the sheriff, noticed the people downtown with this direct and constructive notice, which addresses them personally in their individual capacity. And it has with the RICO statute, it has some pretty strong penalties because they can be held accountable. They don't need an attorney. But getting back to the group over in the San Jose area, they did this, and then they went out to the beach, and of course the beach was closed. And
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz, and a bunch of police cars were out there. So the first thing they did is they handed these constructive notices out to the police, and then they called me on the telephone and said, well, the place is taped off. What do we do? I said, take the tape down and go out on the beach and enjoy yourself, which they did. And when they turned around and looked, the police got in their cruisers and left. No further harassment of any kind. Now, this was done by using the constitutional method of a peaceful assembly and redress of grievances by the Constitution, not by rioting or any of these things. So that's a win, and that sets a precedent for this. So I would like to get together with you at some time or other so that maybe we could inform the people here in town that they don't have to beg the city or the government. They are in control. They have the power, but they have to use it.
Well, you're right. People have to speak up. As I've said, the silent majority cannot afford silence anymore, and they are the majority. But the people are afraid of all kinds of names. You're a racist, or you're this, or you're that. So they're hesitant. They're hesitant to speak up, but they have spoken up more. As we've gone now into the 6th month, 7th month, people have just said, I've had enough. And you're right. The people own this government. Unfortunately, we have people in government who think they are the government and they rule the roost. Believe me, I deal with them every week. They have an attitude, but you can't believe that people are servants and they are the rulemakers. They're smarter than the people, and they're not. They're pretty stupid people. Most politics are pretty stupid. I can tell you this: 90% of them are spineless weasels. And I've dealt with them on every level, and they're spineless, and they don't do what they're supposed to do in terms of defending their constituents. And we've seen that with this pandemic. They have rolled over for Kingston. They take orders. They put out on social media, and there is no pushback at all.
I totally.
They're tyrants.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Is there some way that you and I can get together, or you can provide me with a place to send you the information on our constructive notice, because I think you'll find
Sure.
it very, very interesting, and I can send you a copy that I drew up commending the people over in the Santa Cruz area for their forthwith actions and following through with the actual law. Because if we're going to get anywhere in this country, we want to get back to the rule of law. And if we're going to do that, we have to use the law that's on the books for what we're doing. And that is exactly what we're advocating.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, it's disturbing to look at Governor Newsom. I mean, his four-tier plan, there's no path to normalcy with him. I mean, his idea is we're going to keep lockdown until we get rid of the coronavirus 100%, which is idiotic. That's not going to happen, ever.
Yeah,
It's here to stay.
We're kind of signaling for a break right now, but we're just going to go right through with our guest here until he's done with his presentation before we actually take a break for the commercials. So, Gary, carry on.
Well, I think we've covered a number of things, and I think it really comes down to this policies and the policies that have been utilized to deal with this pandemic have been more detrimental and more destructive to people. And it is very important that people stand up. We had a pandemic in 2009. It was the swamp flu. And there were no shutdowns of the schools. There were no shutdown of businesses. There was no masks. Nobody talked about masks. No death tickers on CNN and Fox News. No case tickers on CNN and Fox News. I wonder what the difference is. Why this time? Well, and I think we all know there's politics involved in this. As Newsom said, he's not going to let it go by without implementing his progressive policies. It's very unfortunate because there's real destruction taking place. Now, of course, nobody denies that COVID is real. Nobody denies that it's not something you need to take it seriously. Nobody says that. But if you speak honestly about the policies and the way to deal with it, they say you're a COVID denier, which, of course, is ridiculous. It's nonsense. There are ways to deal with COVID. We know who's most impacted by this. But we can't destroy economy. We can't destroy children. We can't destroy businesses and lives and livelihoods, and that's what's been happening. So bottom line is we have to continue to speak up. Hopefully on Tuesday, Fresno County not go backwards into the tiers or shutting people down. There are many businesses that are fearful of that, and we just can't allow those kinds of things to take place.
Gary, if you could provide me with your email or a telephone number where we can set up a meeting time, I would appreciate it, because I would really like to get together with you.
Okay, we can arrange that. We'll do that off air, and can do that probably with Guillermo.
Very good. I'm looking forward to that. Any more on the subject here?
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you and your audience.
Very good. Well, we're signaling for a break, and thank you tons for coming on the air with us, because we do have a lot more questions that we'd like to do, but time is of the essence, and the music is in my ears, and they're wanting to get the credits out for their advertisers on the station. So thanks again. Mr. Engineer, take it away.
When farmers are ready to harvest a crop, there's one person they call. The farm ready to harvest a crop, there's one person they call. The farm labor contractor. They arrange for field workers to get that crop to your dinner table. These contractors are experts in food safety and are charged with making sure you receive only the best produce. As the crop is being harvested, they ensure workers have fresh water, breaks, and even transportation. The California Association of Agricultural Labor is proud to represent California's farm labor contractors. Our members put quality first, so you can enjoy savory produce that's truly Valley delicious.
You can shut down the country.
Some people in some states protesting stay-at-home orders.
But you can't shut down politics.
We believe that there's been an overreaction to the close down.
Talk Radio 1550. KXEX.
I want you to think about someone that was there for you, someone that made you feel special and made a difference in your life as a child. We have hundreds of children on the waiting list, patiently waiting for a mentor. Can that be you? If so, please visit our website at bigs.org, bigs.org. Thank you.
The following statements may be disturbing or offensive for some audiences. Life begins at the very moment of conception. Every single life is priceless. Mankind is created in the very image of God. I know that the aforementioned statements did not offend you. At least I hope not. But for many in our culture today, they are sadly offensive. I believe that every life conceived should have every opportunity to reach its full potential.
I'm a busy single mom, and the flexibility of app-based driving works for my family. I can go out there and make money, and I can still see my daughter. The Sacramento politicians passed a new law making it illegal to work as independent contractors. And that's going to force the shutdown of app-based services here. We need Prop 22. 22 protects our work as independent contractors. It will save hundreds of thousands of jobs. Please vote yes on 22.
When
Welcome back, Personalities in the News. And that was a very interesting conversation we had with Gary Bredefeld from the 6th District of the City of Fresno. And we're going to carry on with our points, talking points that we had scheduled to do this evening. And don't forget, this is KXCX 1550 Talk Radio. Call in 559-899-1550. And we will entertain your questions and so forth, and we will appreciate it. Now, Steve, you want to carry on with some of our talking points, which we had iterated earlier, that we were going to be talking about the Constitution somewhat, if you want to start there, like usual. Or we could talk about the pandemic, we could talk about the constructive notice, and we could talk about the so-called protests that have not been peaceful, and so forth. So ask away.
Well, sure, but we do have some comments coming in on Facebook, and we can go over some of those if you want.
Might as well.
Got Elaine. Elaine says, hello from New Jersey. That's a long way from here in California. And I guess New Jersey has their own problems. California, people are leaving here like crazy. I don't know how many. They're not going to have a tax base when it's gone. It's filling in by all the people coming across the border in the South. See, Michael from Michigan says, recall Whitmore. Well, that's a good idea. Whitmore is a criminal. I don't know how she gets these kind of people get elected. She really thinks she's helping people, I guess, but I find that hard to believe. He says the only cure for this nonsense is to vote straight red ballot. That would be kind of interesting if California voted Republican, but it's not too likely. I mean, it seems to me the Biden voters don't really pay attention to anything. They just vote Democrat. And, could be when Jack in the Box ran, if he was a Democrat, he probably would have won, because nobody cares. And
well, I think the tide is turning, and we need to vote more red. Absolutely. If we could turn California red, then maybe the rest of the country would come along.
I just can't see anybody condoning this violence and seeing what is really going on. I know they're trying to blame Trump, but it doesn't work if you just have your eye, at least one eye open. Elaine also says, does car insurance cover damage by BLM and Antifa? I don't know the answer to that, but it should, huh? The Californians need to go red. Hopefully New Jersey follows. The East Coast needs to stop going along with the West Coast. It's really sad that California is so goofy over here. And same with the East Coast, the place where the Constitution was written and everything is more liberal here almost than here. Michael from Michigan again, it's our Governor Whitmore who follows all the other Democratic leaders. Well, they seem to be on the same playbook, and that playbook seems to have come from China, my opinion. they did the lockdowns first. Nobody would even thought of that over here, would they?
Well, I would hope not. Any more?
Well, that's right now. That's it for the Facebook. There may be some more coming in, but one thing I want to get to is this. You heard about Michigan. The Supreme Court ruled in their favor here a few days ago and said the lockdowns are illegal, and she had no authority to do them after a period of time anyway. I challenge that too. I don't think the Constitution can be set aside even on the first day. But anyway, they said their emerging powers last so long, and then beyond that, they need the legislature to get involved. And I would challenge, and the legislature is Republican in Michigan, and they were against the governor all this time, but she didn't care. But I would also, even if the legislature passed rules to continue the emergency, that still doesn't set aside the Constitution. This would be my gripe about that. But now you heard right after the Supreme Court decision, there was this militia. You heard about that, Truman?
I read about it on the internet and heard it on some of the.
It's been all over the news, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. And I want to get to that here a little bit because these are some of the same people you saw. There was a armed protest in Michigan. Many of you saw. They were totally peaceful, and they're allowed to carry guns there in Michigan, which I love. And I think California should have that, but that's not real likely right now. But some of those same people. They said they were going to kidnap the governor. Now, what sense does that make? And they really vilified the militia, and they vilified anybody carrying a gun. They vilified anybody. They're painting the entire brush on conservatives based on this group that was arrested by the FBI. Now, here's something interesting, though. And like always, what you have to do is quit making snap judgments on things and find out what the heck is going on. There's a Michigan sheriff. His name is Berry County Sheriff Dar Leaf, I think is his name. He says he believes that the militia were out to make a citizen's arrest on the governor,
which is legal
based on her actions and the Supreme Court decision. And her idea, her immediate press release was that the Supreme Court, was a bad decision, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Was Whitmore's, and I just want to point this out because my guess is even though they were armed, they were mostly, but they were not allowed to murder people. They were not allowed to burn the Capitol down, and they're making a citizen's arrest into a kidnap. They're calling it a kidnapping, but citizen's arrest is perfectly legal. I just want to know all the facts around this and what they were really planning before you come to a conclusion. So I do want to get that out there, that we don't just follow the media. In fact, when the media slants things so much for me, I question it right away. I just roll my eyes because you can't trust them anymore. You got to look into these things yourself.
One of the other talking points that we had a couple of weeks ago, that's when Sue Ann was here with us, we talked on money of account. Now, how many of the people in the country know that the governments are mandated to keep their books in what they call, or what is, money of account of the United States? Well, what is money of account of the United States? Well, it's gold and silver. Just look it up. Look it up in the Constitution. And that's what it is. But they don't keep their accounts that way anymore. And there's been nothing to change that. They're just doing it. They keep it in, I guess it's going to go to Bitcoin now and all these other things that aren't money. And I've been seeing on the internet and other things where they're going to eliminate the currency that we have nowadays. In other words, the dollar. It's going to go away. That's going to hurt a lot of people. That's going to actually reform our whole government. Steve, any comments on that?
Well, yes, this comes out of the Constitution, Article 1. Congress only has 17 powers, and one of them here is to coin money, regulate the value thereof, fix the standards of weights and measures. They've done that, and it's all silver and gold. And they're not allowed also to use anything but gold and silver in payment of debts, and such as taxes and stuff. But now to me, Bitcoin was more of a barter than it is currency, and there's nothing wrong with that. If I want to trade in shares, my I build chairs, so my money is a chair. I'll pay everybody in a chair. There's nothing illegal about that, or Bitcoin, or a certificate. Some towns have made certificates up themselves. It was kind of like a paper money, but it was a trading within certain districts worked pretty well. But it doesn't work across a large area like the United States. The paper money has no backing any longer, and if they declare it to be worthless tomorrow, there's nothing much you could do about it because it is just a piece of paper. But if you had a gold and silver coin in your pocket and they try to say that's worthless or you can't use it, it wouldn't work because you can spend that gold and silver anywhere in the world at any time. So one of the things the New World Order people want, or the people wanting to get rid of this country as a free country, they want a cashless society. Why? Because then they can track you. Then you have to use a debit card. And this was even warned in the Bible, about having debit cards and that kind of thing, not living in debt. And when they do that, they're going to know every transaction. I can even take a person's checkbook, an average debit card checking account, and people use it so much for every little thing now. I can take it. I can tell you what your hobbies are. I can tell you, what kind of job you have, what kind of things you do. I can usually find out what kind of perversions you have. It's all there. People don't think anybody can look at that. It's there forever.
Yes.
If you use cash, you can go and buy, ice cream or whatever you want to buy, or do something that you may not want people to know about, and you pay cash, and that's it. It is privacy. That is one of the fundamental things of freedom. You have to have privacy in your affairs, and we just don't have that. The way they're trying to make it, they're pushing us all into these bank accounts and paper, computerized money systems.
Well, there's also been a lot of things going on the internet and other places about that the banks now have the authority via the money acts that they've passed, that they can take all your money out of the bank, whether you like it or not. So if you've got any money in the bank, better watch out, because when this dollar goes away and you've got your accounts in dollars, is it going to stay there, or is it going to be converted to this other thing? There's a lot going on here that are going to affect us personally and drastically.
Well, if the progressives take over, now progressive just means communists. If the communists take over, we're not going to have property rights. So people, I hope they are waking up to this fact. But even under Obama, he was, I can't remember what it was, after the last crash, he passed a bill that allows the banks to take money. If the banks think they need your money worse than you need it, they're allowed to take up to 50% of your account. And so they don't have any problems themselves, which is, that's ridiculous. And I agree with Truman on this, and that is, you really should limit your banking. Most people live completely in the banking system. If the bank account is erased or gone, or they decide to do something, or they make even a mistake, or somebody steals your account, there's not much you can do. I mean, if that's where everything you had was. And you've seen movies like this, and where somebody's on the run, and also, their debit card doesn't work, the credit card doesn't work. They have no way. They can't even get a cup of coffee all of a sudden because they don't carry cash. And I think cash is king.
Well, there's a lot of places now that I understand that are not taking money. You have to have a credit card of some kind, and they don't give change back. Like if your meal bill came to $15.90, you'd have 10. You would have if you tendered a $20 payment of some kind, you wouldn't get any change back. They get to keep it. That's ridiculous.
It's idiotic. There's a coin shortage now because of COVID. Come on. What are they talking about? Why would there be a coin shortage? You would think with people out of work and stuff and having a little money, they're going to take their big box of coins out and get it cash, take it to the bank and get some other green pieces of paper. There should be a coin glut there at the banks. I've asked a bank that I was in not too long ago, and they just rolled their eyes. They didn't know what, they just thought it was totally stupid. So, but what it is it's getting us used to being, I think this is from the progressive side, they're using it as an excuse, but there's no germs, it's touchless stuff, which, hey, I'm just not like that.
Well,
you got to touch people, you got to hug people, and touch them, you got to talk to them, you got to be around them. This isolation is not good for people.
No, it's not. And they want us to be compliant. Control. That's the main issue behind all of these things that's going on today. Look what China has done to its people. You talk about surveillance. I mean, it's there in complete control. They can't even do any of the things that we're doing with any privacy at all, according to what I read. If that's the actual facts, which I have not gotten them from there, but I see what's coming around, and you kind of have to believe some of this because it's so outlandish. And I do know a couple of people that have been to China recently, and they said yes, that's what's going on over there. And we don't want that here. But if we don't vote Trump in, and these Democrats take over, our country's going to be gone.
Well, it's going to be harder to take over this country than they think, but I believe that right now Trump's going to have a landslide. I don't know about all the other offices. I don't know if he's going to keep the Senate or not. I mean, people are really finicky, and the Republicans have been so weak-kneed in the last few decades. They say one thing and they never do anything. So they're learning how to fight better with Trump, and I hope they hang in there. And but there are big forces of I'm going to call it communism, paying for the campaigns of these progressive communists in almost everywhere in the United States. Money coming outside of the area, funding a little thing that would be maybe $1 million or $2, putting in $20 million for a Democrat to win the seat, and that's hard to combat. And a lot of the people that would support the Republicans, their work is down. Those are the people that work hard and pay the taxes, and now they're out of work because they've been closed down. And so it's it makes it kind of tough. But still, I think the American people, probably 90% of them are have a little bit of rationality. And even the Republican or Democrats, there's a lot of Democrats fleeing the party. A lot of them won't admit it, but I've heard as high as 30% of the Democrats are not voting Democrat this time around. So, and that would be a pretty good thing. The Democrats need to go. That party could go away altogether. Republicans, in my opinion, are where the Democrats used to be 30 years ago, and we need a new, actually, real, kind of a constitutional. Because I don't think Republicans are all that conservative either anymore. But so we need a new party that's really conservative, and the Democrats of 30 years ago can take over the Republican Party. Then we'll be all right. But this is either we're going to have a constitutional republic or we're going to have a dictatorship. That's the two choices you have in the presidential campaign.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm going to read something that I should have read after I introduced Gary Bedefield. And that is, the opinions and views of our hosts and guests are theirs and do not represent this program or stations. If I don't say that, then I'm going to be in hot water. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, I'm entitled to my opinion, and so are you.
That's right. And I'm not bashful about my opinions, even when I'm on the air. But I don't say anything that's nasty or bad. I try to stick with the facts, with the rule of law, and our constitutional republic foundation. And that's where it's at. I haven't heard any music in my ear for a while. I'm wondering if we're going to have any breaks at all this evening. So I guess the people back in the control room are watching, and I'm listening. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here for actually what would be our third break of the evening, and we will let the station run their commercials, and we will turn it over to the engineer, and we shall return shortly.
All right, Truman. This next one will be our last break. We'll take it to the top of the hour. Okay.
Okay. I need 6 minutes before the top of the hour.
You got it, and I will give you that. I'll give you that signal.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Truman, we have Cy on line 2, and he wants to call and show support for the station.
Hello, Cy. Truman here. I guess we'll have to
Try it again.
Yeah. Hello, Cy. Are you on the line?
When farmers are ready to harvest a crop, there's one person they call, the farm labor contractor. They arrange for field workers to get that crop to your dinner table. These contractors are experts in food safety and are charged with making sure you receive only the best produce. As the crop is being harvested, they ensure workers have fresh water, breaks, and even transportation. The California Association of Agricultural Labor is proud to represent California's farm labor contractors. Our members put quality first, so you can enjoy savory produce that's truly Valley delicious.
You can shut down the country.
Some people in some states protesting stay-at-home orders.
But you can't shut down politics.
We believe that there's been an overreaction to the close down.
Talk Radio 1550. KXEX.
I want you to think about someone that was there for you, someone that made you feel special and made a difference in your life as a child. We have hundreds of children on the waiting list, patiently waiting for a mentor. Can that be you? If so, please visit our website at bigs.org, bigs.org. Thank you.
The following statements may be disturbing or offensive for some audience.
Welcome back to Personalities in the News and our topics for today. Call in to Talk Radio 1550 KXEX 559-899-1550 with your questions, comments, or whatever is on your mind. We'll now continue on with our talking points for about 6 or 7 minutes, but we have a caller on the line. His name is Cy Ciro. Cy, you have a question, a comment, or something else?
Hi, Truman. Good afternoon. I just wanted to call in and tell you that I love your show. I love the format of your show. And the information that you're disseminating, I think is wonderful information that everybody should be listening to in our local communities.
Well, I couldn't agree more. That's why we are doing this, and we're trying to get on some local people that are in government here. We had one on this evening, and we're going to get more. And I'm going to try to do a little more interaction with them, especially on our constructive notice, so that we can get these people who are putting all this monkey motion on us to cease and desist and follow the law and their oath of office that they took when they became in our government. And,
where are you from, Cy?
I'm sorry?
Where are you from?
I live in Fallon, and I have a business in Fresno, California.
How are you listening to the program today?
Actually, I'm listening to it via an internet link that I found on my telephone. Because at the moment, I'm sitting in Arroyo Grande, California. Basking in 85-degree temperature.
It's good. Cy, what type of business do you have?
Well, we own the second oldest retail store in Fresno, California. Started in 1895, and it's a lovely late store. And also, I am an independent business consultant with the SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center located in Fresno and Clovis, California. And our goal is to try to utilize the resources that have been provided by President Trump and the government under the CARES Act in helping to save local businesses. That's our function and that's our goal.
Well, that sounds like a very worthwhile project. When I get with Gary Bredefeld here, I'm going to mention you to him because I think that what he is doing with the business people in Fresno, I doubt very much if many of these people know how to go about it or have even heard about it.
I happened to listen to your show from the very beginning at 5 o'clock, and I listened to Mr. Bredefeld, and I support everything that he's doing. And you're right, there are certain resources we have available to us, especially small business
farce that the people in government brought on us done to you and your business?
Well, unfortunately, my business is contracted precipitously, and many of my friends who are local business owners, they have also had a serious decline in their business. And even with the shutdown, without the assistance of the CARES Act and what they refer to as the PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, and the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, many of the businesses would have closed permanently in our community, never to return.
That's a terrible thing. In this case, it looks to me like the cure for the pandemic was the downfall of the business people and the people in general. I know a lot of people that are out of work. They've lost their jobs. Unemployment has run out, and they don't know what they're going to do from here. It's really terrible.
The circumstances that we have been facing have been absolutely dire across the board. Whether you're a restaurateur, whether you are a hairdresser, whether you own a retail shop as we do, it doesn't matter. Everybody has been adversely affected, and sadly, we need more assistance from the government. And in this particular case, if I may say, the money is there. We just need Congress to approve the money under the CARES Act, which has actually been approved and sitting there. We just need them to turn the switch to help local businesses. And keep in mind, Christmas is right around the corner. We've lost the springtime, we've lost the summertime for retail businesses, and now turning the corner and heading into the Christmas season, which is literally right on our doorsteps.
I want to jump in here a little bit. We do have you in the beginning of the program, Truman, you mentioned an recall, which is actually backwards. It is Recall Gavin 2020. RecallGavin2020.com. So it's got to go to the right website. RecallGavin 2020, and everybody who's listening to this program in California is signing up for that. You can download it yourself, or find out where there's a place you can sign it. And that guy's got 3 more years if we don't do something about him.
So we had a representative for that recall program on our show here a few weeks ago, and I think we need to get her back so she can talk about it some more.
We should talk about that a lot, yeah, because it's coming up in November next month. They got to have 1.5 million signatures. They're well on their way. That's still tough.
Si, how many people have you encountered when this money situation has been brought up, have heard of it?
I personally have helped over 4 dozen companies in securing assistance through one of 4 of the government portals. But the story doesn't stop there. That's a splash in the ocean. I have heard from literally almost 100 businesses or business owners or small business people who have been adversely affected by the shutdown that has been engineered here in California through the government. It's affected every phase of our local community. Every phase.
That's for sure. Okay, well, I want to bring up something here while we have the time. It's called Why It's Important to Vote. For those of you who say, I can't believe you would vote for Trump. Well, folks, listen up. I'm not just voting for him. This isn't a personality contest. I'm voting for the Second Amendment. I'm voting for the next Supreme Court Justice. I'm voting for the Electoral College and the republic we live in. I'm voting for the police and law and order. I'm voting for the military and the veterans who fought for and died for this country. I'm voting for the flag that is always missing from the Democratic background. I'm voting for the right to speak my opinion and not be censored. I'm voting for secure borders. I'm voting for the right to praise my God without fear. I'm voting for every unborn soul the Democrats want to murder. I'm voting for freedom and the American dream. I'm voting for good and against evil. I'm not just voting for one person. I'm voting for the future of our country. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Question: what are you voting for? Steve? Comment.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, we got a couple more Facebook comments. Maybe I should quickly cover those. We're about to run out of time.
Yeah,
We've got
go with them until the sign from the break comes and I can do my closing and we're out of here for tonight.
Elaine says the guy involved with Whitmore's abduction was anti-Trump. She says she needs to hold off on it's Trump's fault. Hold off that it's Trump's fault. That's why they're trying to connect him with Trump. All right, Lisa says excellent point regarding cash's and tracking of all transactions. Very sound advice. Cash is king, she says. I agree with that. Elaine says they're tracking everything we do already, not trusting a vaccine.
We have Elena.
It has nothing to do with Trump, just one deep pockets and the New World Order.
Okay, Steve, I just got a call. We have someone on the line. Who on the line? Would you say hi?
Hi, this is Helena. I just want to say thank you for having Gary Redfield on the air today. I'm a huge supporter, and thank you for continuing your show throughout this. Just had a question regarding to what you were speaking about earlier. Have the banks ever taken people's money?
Steve, you want to take that?
Well, part of it was a bill that Obama passed. I don't have it in front of me. He went to Europe and did something. It was coordinated, one of those things. Trump may be working on doing that, by the way, but it was to help the banks not have a problem in 2008. We didn't care about people having a problem in 2008. But what this bill did is allow the banks to, if there's another emergency like 2008, which we're pretty close to, it allows them to take some of your up to 50% of your accounts to help keep the bank solvent. If they decide they need it more than you do. There's only one way to stop that I know of is not keep very much in the bank. So.
I think she rang off on the telephone probably to listen on the radio. I hope, hope that we have answered your question. Is there anything more on the internet that you're watching, or do we have any more callers coming in?
We got a few more. Elaine says Nancy Pelosi needs to go. These Democrats are being paid. People are already homeless, and it's getting worse. They don't care. They're selfish, evil people. I kind of agree with that. And Pelosi, she's so fake. Walls don't work. Open borders are great, but she's got a wall around her house. And I might have a little more respect for her. I wouldn't agree with her, but you take her wall down and leave her front door open, then that's what she expects us to do.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, we're coming up on probably going to be getting a signal momentarily here. There are my closing remarks for the night. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you like our format and topics, let us know and tell others. Our time is up for this evening. Thanks to the hosts for their views and opinions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and our guests. Tune in next week, same time and station. Talk Radio KFZX 1550. Call in to 559-899-1550. And TV channel 32.3. Truman Sigler and Steve, as my co-host, personalities in the news. Good night.
All right. Talk to you next week.